If you don't know who we are, I'm Sarah Spencer, and to my right, is it stage right, stage left? I never know. I'm going to say this way on my screen is Becky Reed. She's one of our buyer specialists on the team. And this way is Brittany Johnston. She is also one of our buyer specialists. And that's who's been navigating our buyers recently through this crazy time. What I'm hearing more and more, particularly at Keller Williams, is from especially younger agents, help me win these multiple offers. And I heard it enough. And then I started hearing it from people and friends. And I know that my ladies keep winning. So I went to them one day and said, how are you guys winning more often than you're losing? And their answer was, I'm really mean to my buyers. No, their answer was, I force my buyers to do things, but they do things in a way where the way they're presenting these things, this is not actually rocket science and it's not secrets. When you hear all these things, you're going to go, oh, that makes complete sense. And the reason it makes sense is because it's a logical progression of how they produce these offers that look the best. So we know if we're going to have 10 offers, you're going to have 9 losers. And so if you're going to be the one, you need to have this really strong. That doesn't mean go ridiculously crazy with your offer price. It can mean that. And if you guys want to do that, you can. But I'd rather you just do it smartly with one of these ladies. And so that's why we're here tonight, because I want Brittany and Becky to kind of share with you guys what they've learned and as they've succeeded, how they succeeded. And so some of these are secrets, but honestly, we don't mind if you share them. Most of the other people on the beach know this too, but for whatever reason, they're not communicating it correctly to their clients. So we're just going to dig straight into it. If any of you on the call have been trying to do multiple offers and you've been unsuccessful, so you're feeling our pain, then you can raise your hand and share your story. I think if by the end of this, hopefully, if you hear us and if you trust us, if you do these things, these 7 things, then you're going to win. And then I firmly believe, and I'm going to get a little bit hokey and cheesy here, I firmly believe if you don't, after working with one of these ladies and doing these 7 things, then that was not meant to be your house. I really believe that. So far in 23 years, I have never, ever, ever had someone say to me, gosh, I really wish that I had gotten that other house. I have not heard that yet in all these years. So I think when it's meant to be, you're going to get the right house. The first thing that we want to talk about more than anything else, this is going to sound boring, is a pre-approval. And some of you may not know what that means. And some of you might not know what it means relative to a pre-qualification. So we're starting to get into some funny words. So I'm going to let Brittany talk about what those 2 things mean and why you need pre-approval. So Brittany, can you
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining. So real quick, diving into pre-approval versus pre-qualification. Most of you have already gone through the process and have already been pre-approved with a lender. Of course, we're going to recommend that you stick with someone local. They can dive into what our insurance needs. They have a better tap with local appraisers. And of course, we work with them on a daily basis. So we have great developed relationships and we can get stuff done. They're going to answer our phone calls, call us back, and do the things when we need them to. The difference you might ask between pre-approval and pre-qualification, pre-approval means you've gone through that quick process, you've filled out that application, you've given them some real basic information about, pulling your credit, understanding what you're making annually. And they're saying, yeah, this person looks solid. I'll go ahead and pre-approve them for a $500,000 loan. The difference between pre-approval and pre-qual is the pre-qualification is you've gone through that next step and you've kind of already went to underwriting. So you're starting to give that lender some more of your information. You are, starting to upload W-2s and they're going through and they're tapping into your finances a little bit more. And so that's going to give you the upper hand in our market now, because when we're submitting offers, they're going to see, oh, well, this buyer isn't just, they told them that they made $100,000 a year. We've went through and we've pre-qualified them completely and we've seen their W-2s and they're a sound buyer. And that kind of taps into something else that we're doing. The Spencer team is working closely with Southern Trust. We have a VIP program that we're launching. They will do a pre-approval, but they will also do a 24-hour turnaround pre-qualification for our buyers. So what that means is we've already kind of touched on that, but you're just having the upper hand when putting in these offers. We're also part of this process going to be offering a $500 lender credit, which is going to be a credit to you at closing. We're also giving a $500 lender flat fee, which lender rates can go by percentages, fees can get real high. They've committed to no matter what your purchase price is, where it is, or what it is you're purchasing, they're going to give you that flat rate. We're also giving you a $500 due diligence credit, which is another credit to you at closing. And then we're going to be giving you a $500 preferred home inspector credit. So we've seen home inspections range anywhere between, like $425 up to about $900. So that's going to pay for almost all, if not a good chunk of your home inspection. So, by being with the Spencer team, we've got this VIP program with you if you're getting pre-qualified or pre-approved with one of our lenders. So that is your number one step that we want to make sure that everyone's getting done so that we're ready to go and we have the upper hand in this market.
Yep. This sounds so boring, you guys. I know it's not sexy, but it's really important. When I work for a lot of sellers. There's some people on this call that have been my sellers. And when we're trying to determine what the best offer is, the first thing I want to know is this person full of it, or can they really afford this? If they can't afford it, I'm moving on to buyer number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I want a really strong, not a pre-qualification letter, not just I met this person and they may or may not still be breathing, but I've actually dug into their finances. If I take a person's asset off the market for 30 days for someone who wasn't actually qualified, that's on me. That's on me as the listing agent. And so I'm looking for professionals like Brittany and Becky to come to me and say, this person is solid. This is how I know they're solid. And this is how I can tell your seller that they're solid. This is a pre-approval letter, not a pre-qualification, which means that this person is good to go. We're not going to be surprised 29 days into a 30-day due diligence that this person can't really afford the house. So that's why that's really important. Brittany, double check and make sure nobody's in the waiting room. I just want to check one more time. And maybe
I just let a couple people in. Jeanette just joined us, and so did Jeannie.
This is one question from somebody, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who, but it came in with their pre-approval. It says, how long, or with their pre-sign up for this, how long does it take to get pre-approved? That's a good question. Do you know, Brittany?
Yeah, so we have one preferred vendor that, part of our program, but we can get it done as long as you can get to the computer or do it on the app on your phone. We can get a letter in hand no longer than, 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. They're on standby, whether it's a text message, a phone call, an email. They're working for us around the clock. We, of course, recommend that you prepare it as much as possible, which is why we're offering this additional program. But we can get it done quickly. If you're not ready to start that process, but all of a sudden the house pops up tomorrow and you're like, oh man, I need that letter, because you do need that letter in order to put in an offer.
Yeah. So as long as you have your things together and you're talking to one of our preferred lenders, normally if you have your stuff together, it's within an afternoon that they can gather that, get online, get onto the portal, and put that in, so they'll get the pre-approval, right? Mm-hmm. Like within an afternoon? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and every time I text our lenders, it's minutes I get a response. It's not hours I'm waiting for. They are on top of it. They know that, we're sending them the right people and they're there for us.
Yep. And we ask you, please also, and I know Brittany's going to mention this, please try to use a local lender. We have lots of reasons why that's a good idea, and we can go offline with that, or we can go into hour 2 if Hester really wants us to about that. But it's super important. If you have a favorite lender at home, that's great, but they really, really shouldn't enter the game here. It's just going to put you behind. That's another thing that I look at as a listing agent. If you have a local lender, that matters to me more. I mean, that means you're going to get to those appraisers faster. And then you know the system here better. If you use somebody from out of town, I know it's going to be trouble. So again, looking at this from the lens of the seller's perspective, I'd rather see that. So I'm glad that we have some preferred lenders for you all. So the next thing on this list is purchase price, because I'm sure that's what everybody out there is like, yeah. How much do I have to offer? So Becky, you have the number one question for the night. Tell us about how much these people need to offer.
Well, before I go into that, just to piggyback on what you're saying about the caring about it being local lender.
Mm.
I put in an offer the other day, called the agent, was, telling them all the specifics of what we were going to offer. And they were like, yeah, but is it a local lender? Like that was, I don't even think they listened to the numbers. They just wanted to know, is it a local lender? That was, so
I
that's
see.
how important. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it matters in comparison to what other people are doing here. So, all right. So purchase price, big question. Do I have to go over asking price? And I'll say it depends. But really in today's market, we always recommend that you put your best foot forward, even if it is not into multiple offers quite yet. Because what can happen is sellers don't always want their agent to tell whether they are getting other offers. They don't always want it to go into a highest and best situation. And Brittany will talk about that in a little while. But so if you go in up front with your best offer that you can put in, then you don't have to worry about somebody coming behind you and swooping it out from under you without you knowing that another offer was coming. And also, even if you do know it's a multiple offer situation, oftentimes if you go in with that highest and best offer that you want to give on that property, sometimes they'll just go ahead and cut off the rest of the showings the rest of the showings and the rest of the offers coming in. If they have a magic number in their mind and you hit that magic number, then they're like, all right, I'm done. And so we always want to go in with the best, what it is that you are willing to offer on that.
What is that number? What's our magic formula for that number?
Well, a couple of things that go into that. I'm kind of a numbers geek, so I was digging into the MLS, our listing system today, and just looking. And if you looked at our entire MLS, including lots, including homes that may have been on the market for 6 months, and ones that have been on 0 days, we are at 98% ask price of 98% of list price. So almost there. And then I kind of broke it down into smaller, smaller chunks for different areas like Kildare Hills West Side, Corolla Oceanside, Nags Head Oceanside. And with all of them, for anything that sold in under 2 weeks, went under contract in under 2 weeks. So those hot properties, every single area the average was over 100%.
Really?
So every single area that I looked at was within 2 weeks, if they had been on the market for 2 weeks or less, was going over asking price on average. Now, some of those were right at asking. Some of those may have been like just a little bit under, maybe if they'd sat there like the 2 weeks rather than gone on day 1 through 5. And then there were some that were way over. Kildare Hills West Side, I saw one that was 25,000 over. Corolla, I saw up to 40,000 over. Those aren't necessarily the norms. And that's where Brittany and I will dig into the MLS and look and see in the last month in Collington Harbor specifically, what has been kind of that magic number that is won. Now, this is in the past, we're looking back at what has already completely sold. So that information isn't completely accurate, but it gives us a guide to help guide you. But then, what it really comes down to for each of you at the end of the day, we just always ask. So if you lost this multiple offer situation and you saw that this person paid X amount for it and you lost to them, how would you feel? Would you be sick? Is that, or would you be like, yeah, that's okay. I wouldn't have paid that anyway. But you kind of have to figure out that number for yourself. And it's specific to each house, because what you might be willing to go over on this house and go over on this house may be different because of how much you love them. So I think that's the big question there. We definitely are going to look at numbers and guide you, but in the end, it comes down to what you want, how much you want.
So the question is, how much would you, if we told you that house closed and it closed for X, would you cry and say, I would have paid X? Mm-hmm. And so whatever that number is the number she's looking for. And if she called you and said, oh, that house that you loved, it sold for X, if you heard that number and was like, well, they can have it for that. So those are the two numbers that she's looking for. The I'm so sad I would have paid that, and a good for them, they should have it if they're going to pay that much money, right? So those are the two numbers we're looking for. And those numbers should be pretty close together. They shouldn't be super wide because there should be some friction against those two numbers. And once we have that number and you dial that in, that's what you need to offer. And then we tell you whether or not you're paying so much over ask that we feel like you're paying a luxury price for that. And then we talk about what that luxury cost is. Sometimes people are just ready to be done. They're just ready to be done, and they will pay an extra $10,000 to quit looking. Has anybody ever felt like they just want to just pay just to quit looking? I mean, I know that I sometimes go to Harris Teeter just because it's closer to my house. I know the grapes cost more there, you guys. I'm aware of that, but I'm just going to pay the extra 20 cents for the grapes at Harris Teeter because I just want to be done. So, I mean, if we can afford that, sometimes we we'll go ahead and tell people that. Jeff, that's a good question. What percent were they? What was the average percentage of asking price prior to the pandemic? So we do still talk in terms of post and pre in our world. So if I'm looking right now, I'm gonna guess. I wonder what it is.
Like 93 to 95%.
Is it? Yeah, that's what I used to tell people.
It depended very much on the area. You know, if you were down in Hatteras, it was closer to 90. If you were in the hot areas, it was closer to 95%.
Yeah, so 95. So we've gone up a full 5%. You'd say that makes sense. And over, yeah. So maybe 5 to 6, yeah. And that could be a lot depending on what the ask price is. All right, so we've talked about, get pre-approved. We've talked about purchase price. You've got to really be comfortable with that number and what you're going in it with. So sometimes it's not really a factor of the price, but it's a factor of what you're most comfortable with. The next question is, or the next secret, I think they're going to be divulging. Brittany, you have this one. It's about due diligence money and earnest money. Yeah, that's a really, really good one. And maybe tell them what that means. Like, what are the definitions of those two phrases? Most people don't do this for a living, so those kind of sound like funny terms.
So due diligence money and earnest money are two different things. Before, in our market prior to, pandemic and COVID, we were just a straight earnest money market. We didn't really put due diligence money down. And that money is typically about 1%, and it was being held by the attorney. And if for some reason you backed out of, the contract during the due diligence period, which in North Carolina, that's what you're allowed, and you would get that money back. But now, to be more competitive and to show your seriousness for these homes, we're starting to trend more like a tri-state area market, like Raleigh or bigger cities. And more people are putting down due diligence money, but not just a small chunk. We're putting down thousands of dollars. And due diligence money is being paid directly to the seller. This money is, if you do back out, the seller gets to keep that money because you're basically paying them to take their house off the market for, our average of 40 to 45 day due diligence period while you are going through and performing inspections, getting your appraisal, putting your finances in order. They are taking a risk by taking their house off the market. And so paying that money is showing seriousness. Of course, that's a credit to you at closing. But it holds a lot of weight when we're making an offer. And we're talking about these things in order because they have importance, so your pre-approval is number 1, your purchase price is number 2, and your due diligence money, it's number 3. People are going to look and go, well, how serious are these people? Or are they out there making 6 other offers? So if you're throwing down a chunk of due diligence money, that the seller's agent is going to look at them and go, these people are serious. They just said they'll give us $5,000 tomorrow or within 5 days. And that's getting paid directly to you, Mr. Seller. And if after 40 days, they decide at 5 o'clock on the 40th day that they don't want to buy, that's your money to keep. But you go to closing and that money is a credit to you as a buyer. So it's very important to, especially in multiple offers, put down due diligence money. Becky and I will advise you that if we're in a situation and it's not a multiple offer situation, we still try to get away. If we know it's not a multiple offer situation, we still try to get away without putting down due diligence money because we know that it's a risk. But even in the, I just closed an oceanfront not too long ago. We were the only bid. We were negotiating back and forth. I still had to put down a large chunk of due diligence money, and there was no one else in the game. But I did try to go at it for my client without putting down that due diligence money. But it just shows you that our market is starting to trend, and a lot of agents are advising their clients that you need to get this money. It is for your own good.
Yeah. Good question too, from Jeff, and I think it ties into this. So when we're talking about due diligence, by the way, it's not new to some people. If I talk about it with someone from California, they're like, oh yeah, due diligence, got it. How much do you need? When I talk about it with people from the East Coast, they're like, tell me what that means. So it's not abnormal for some of our clients, and it's certainly not abnormal for some of our sellers. So know that for them, they're expecting you to put some skin in the game. Another phrase that you may not have heard of that that Jeff brought up was, what about escalation clauses? That's another type of tool that is used in other parts of the country that we don't use here. So I'm going to talk about it really, really fast, and then we're going to move on. We can't use escalation clauses here. And if you want a really long, boring explanation, Jeff, we can do that later. But the short of it is that in Carolina, the scope of our licenses requires that we hold any private information between two parties that are negotiating in a contract private to those two parties. So the only way I can escalate yours is if I get permission from the seller and the buyer, the other buyer, to do so. So I can't come back to you and say, hey, we need another $5,000 from your escalation clause because buyer B has offered more than you. That's actually offering you information about a private contract or a private party contract. And that would be against my fiduciary duties and that client's and that other agent's fiduciary duties. So we can't without permission. And no dodo is going to say yes to me. You know, hey, can I tell everybody else what your offer is? The answer is going to be no, right? So I can't do that here. I know they do it in other states. So I know a lot of you guys are disappointed. I'm sorry. I can't change the rules. But so yes, they're a good idea, but not in Carolina. And actually they can lead to problems. I mean, I have lots of friends, both Becky and Brittany have heard this question multiple times, by the way. I know both of these ladies have been asked, can we put in an escalation? And we hear that good and bad stories about how they were used or abused in other states. So yeah, good question. All right, next one is home inspections. Oh yeah, home inspections. So there's a lot to this one. Brittany, did you want to take this one? Is this one you too?
Yeah, this one's me. So home inspection. So when Becky and I are presenting our offers, we're not just sending over a signed group of paperwork that you've done. We're actually laying out to these agents the details of your information as far as lending. We're talking to them about how you've seen the property, if you've seen it in person, if you've seen it virtually. We're talking to them about when we have our home inspection, because our due diligence period, we are telling them that we're going to get it done within X amount of days. And right now, home inspectors and appraisers are on average about 3 to 4 weeks out. So if we're not doing something for you ahead of time, there's no way we're going to be meeting those deadlines of 30 and 40 days or whatever we're negotiating. So the Spencer team actually has two preferred home inspectors, and Sarah's been using one of them for quite a while now. But and he's, they're both great, very detailed, very meticulous. They do a wonderful job. They, jump for us when we say jump. But we actually pre-buy home inspections every month. So if the house were to pop up tomorrow, we're prepared and we're ready for you. We're going to be able to keep your offer aggressive, because we can go in and say that we don't need 60 days due diligence. We can get it done in 35 because I've got a home inspection that can go in Friday and get it done. So we're doing things on our end to be aggressive for you, to make sure that your offers are looking enticing to sellers.
Yeah, that's important. If I have an offer that comes in front of my desk and I ask them, when have you talked to a home inspector? And they say, we haven't talked yet. I know that they're at least 6 weeks out. And that means my seller's got to wait 6 weeks to find out whether or not the person wants their house or not, because they're not going to have a home inspector in there soon. So it matters to these ladies that they can call Ben or they can call Bob and they can say, hey, what's coming up next? Just this weekend, I think somebody put in an offer. I can't remember which one of you it was. And he's already going to be there next weekend. So that's a huge advantage over the next offer that might be looking at pulling that house off the market for 5 weeks. That doesn't make any sense. So if I'm looking at it through the lens of the listing agent, I'm thinking that's a better offer, because I know that they're going to get Ben there next weekend, and we'll know whether or not they want the house sooner rather than later. So we're trying to keep these clean. I hope that's coming across right. We're trying to come at these sellers with a silver platter. And the next thing that I think Becky's going to talk about is exactly that, really, is don't complicate the offer, right, Becky? I mean, we have so many people who have these great wish lists, but talk to us about what a wish list looks like once you put it down on an offer and what you're recommending.
Yeah, I think as far as complicating the offer, we really have to think like the seller. If you have 10 offers coming at you, you want it to be simple, clean, direct. You just want to go to the most important parts of it, which are going to be that price, due diligence, and the dates. Those are the big things they're looking at. Also whether the person is going to be getting a loan or whether it's cash, because that can affect the timeline. But we really want to focus on those things. So we're going to ask for as little as possible so that it doesn't give them something to say no to. While at the same time making sure we do have like that home inspection scheduled, and we do know we're already talking to our lenders to make sure we can get the appraisal done. So we're working on your end to make sure those things are going on up front. But as far as the offer, we've got to keep it clean. So we're not going to be asking for closing costs back. We're not going to ask them if they would pretty please leave those Adirondack chairs that we really like, or to please remove that couch from 1982 because we don't want to look at it. Those things we just can't ask for because it's just one more thing for them to be like, no, forget it, and move on to the next one. So when you start to throw in variables, it just confuses the sellers and kind of takes them down a road where they're a little bit turned off. So thinking like a seller, keeping it as clean as possible, while also, getting what you need out of it, like I said, with the appraisal and the home inspection. And I think there was a question about a home inspection.
Yeah, can you sell a home? Can you sell without home inspection if the home's in great condition? Yeah, I mean, you can answer that, Becky. I guess we're looking at this from that would be like a listing question, but as
a buyer, yes, you can, but we wouldn't necessarily recommend it unless I can't think of a situation where maybe brand new construction.
I would say a brand new home, I would recommend that you get it at day 362. So that way you can give the builder a punch list within your first year of builder warranty. Yeah. But that would be the only time we would probably ever advise you to not get a home inspection.
Yeah. Brittany is married to a man in the industry, and he's really good at his job. But we all know that these houses here take a beating. And we want to know what's wrong with them before we sell them to you guys. So I would say no. I'll give you an example. Just last week, our favorite handyman down here, who can do just about anything, was bought his first house. And he's under contract with our team. And he's getting a home inspection. You guys, my handyman is getting a home inspection. So we really, really push those because you just don't know. This is a beautiful place, but that wind blows 20 miles an hour from about every minute of the hour or of the day and night from about November 15th till about May 15th on the ocean, and lesser as you get off the ocean. But that's a lot of salt air. And there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. So we really, really, really recommend that you guys do it. If it's absolutely a perfect house and you're in the industry, I guess the three of us would talk, and we might make you just pinky swear and sign something that we told you not to, but you did it anyway. That's the only way I do it. I'm sorry. I feel really strongly. I know these ladies do too. I just don't want you guys coming back to us and saying, then we found out the termites ate the east wall, and that can happen.
Uncle Ted installed that new sunroom and he didn't flash the decking, and now you've got a whole world of trouble because the entire north side of the building is rotten all the way down from where that room starts and goes to the bottom, and you didn't know that until after you bought the house, and you probably would not have bought the house because now you have $40,000 worth of rotten siding.
Yeah, normally we can tell. I mean, we know the age of these houses, we know what they've been through, we know they're builders. We can normally tell you what we think a house is going to come up with on a home inspection, but even we get surprised sometimes. And so, yeah, we don't want you to be surprised after you own the house. Who are local lenders for refinance or buy is another question. So we got lots and lots of people. We will give you guys a list if you want. We love Kelly Bergenstock. These two ladies work with her a bunch. She's at Caliber. And then Tate Feltz at Southern Trust. Who else have you guys worked with? I know you got some specialized loan products over with some other people. Becky?
Emily Howell, if it's an LLC or some kind of commercial.
Right. Yep. Different products for different things. If you're an LLC, not every bank will give you a loan. So we like Emily over there. So, but yeah, just ask us. It probably depends on it depends on your situation would be the question, but at least those three we love. All right, go into highest and best, Brittany. I'll scroll through these questions to see if there's anything else. But tell us what does that mean, highest and best?
So it kind of goes back to talking about purchase price, and a couple of you have already put in offers on this call and know kind of what highest and best means. But the highest and best is typically the second time the seller is calling for offers. So the product hits the market, the house is on for 3 days, and they've got 6 offers, and we already know that.
Yep.
But then they tell us, well, you have until Sunday at 6 because we're calling for highest and best at that point. So that gives everyone a second chance to go through and make another offer. But this goes back to what Becky said. You need to put your best foot forward. You got to ask yourself those 2 questions that Sarah said in the beginning. What would I have let the house go for, and what would I have paid? And always put your best foot forward, because like Becky said, sometimes I've happened to me. They look at an offer and they go, your offer's great, and they dismiss everybody else because we went in with our best foot forward, and it gave nobody else a chance to even have their offer looked at. So highest and best is really just them calling for a second term of offers. And most agents will do this for their client, sellers agents will do this for their client to get them their best offer. It also gives more people a chance to have an offer come forward because it sits on the market just a couple days longer. But at the end of the day, what we recommend is put your best foot forward. Think about what you want to do for due diligence and earnest money, your purchase price, all of that. Just at the end of the day, put your best foot forward.
Yep. Don't look back. All right. So what if I wanted to buy a house and it just came up, but I live far away and I still want to write an offer? Becky, what are you recommending to clients who say, I want to see a house, but I can't get down there in person? So, talk to us a little bit about showings and how they've sort of changed now that we're in these days where houses are off the market for like a day before they get an offer.
I would say the majority of our showings are virtual these days. I've done them via Zoom, FaceTime, Ring Central, WhatsApp, whatever you got, send it to me. And we just go and do the showing as a video showing. I see some people on here right now that aren't here, can't come down here because of situations where they are. And so we're doing the whole thing virtually. So it's definitely not uncommon. Sometimes people come down and meet us, we'll look a little bit, and then possibly not find one that weekend. So we just continue on with that. And, as we do those, we try to be, extremely thorough, checking ceilings, looking for, at windows, anything that you need to know about that house before you were to place an offer on it. We try our best to show you everything that's within it, that you would need to see. And the other thing, that goes along with showings is that we understand the urgency as we're writing these offers and we're seeing how quickly things come on and go off. Yeah. We know that we have to get you up to see a property ASAP. So Brittany and I both leave, a good amount of space in our schedules to be able to jump and run, because that's what it's kind of like these days. As soon as we see it come on, we're like, it's here, let's go. And we just get up there to check it out for you. And if you're not here, or even if you are here and at work, we can do one of those virtual showings. And in addition to us, we also have a team of showing specialists. And so if we're not the one showing you, if you're seeing Carly or Jason or Chelsea, it's because they could get there the fastest. And again, we just know the urgency. So we have that team of people supporting us to get there for you as fast as they can.
Yep. And sometimes they're better. Sometimes they're better than we are. I think that answers that. I mean, I feel like Chelsea in particular, I've actually been on a FaceTime when I was out of town with a client, and she took us both through the house together. And I kept going, oh, wait, will you back up? Oh, will you open that cabinet? And I thought, boy, I'm a pain in the neck. But that's what you want, if you're buying this house from far away. We also would love it if you'd come down during due diligence to see it yourself with your own eyeballs. But in order just to make the offer, again, if I'm the listing agent, which I am a lot of the times, one of the questions I'm going to ask any of the buyers, if I'm looking at 10 offers in front of me, I want to know who's actually seen the house. And then I want to know who's just making an offer based on a knee-jerk reaction because it's the first house that's come up in Duck in the last 3 months that it fits everybody's profile. So, a lot of people are just going to write offers sight unseen. And I want to get those off the table. I want to talk to the buyer who has actually seen the house. And if that's FaceTime, that's good. Being here in person is even better though, guys. So I'd really love it if you'd get in your car. And I know these ladies would agree, because that just makes, again, we're just trying to make it as strong as possible. And that means that you've already seen it. You're not going to change your mind later. You're not going to go, oh, well, I didn't realize it had green carpet. I hate green carpet, right? So we want to see people here actually get here. There's some questions, and I didn't want to miss over one. And Miss Nerdy Numbers, you might know this. How much have we talked about? How much the percentage was over asking price post-pandemic, pre-pandemic. Tell me how much an average house price has increased over the past year. That's a big fat depends on where it is, I would say. But can you talk to that? Do you know those numbers?
I don't know that I know those numbers. I could look them up.
I mean, I think it would depend so much. I've got ocean fronts in Corolla that I can tell you for sure we bought in 2019 and we're selling now 2021, and he's making 35%. Not before cost of sale. And then I know some people that are just up 5% and 10%. So I think it really, I mean, that's a big fat depend. It's a good question. It depends. What these ladies normally do is then they study that market. So if you're making an offer on a house in Corolla Light, they're going to micro hone in on Corolla Light, then broaden to Corolla in general, and then broaden to the North Beaches to give you those couple different numbers, to give you some brackets. But I couldn't say across the whole Outer Banks. If we gave you that number, it wouldn't be constructive, because it could be a blanket number, but it's going to be wildly different in the Currituck Club as opposed to Arlington Harbor. So I would say, tell us exactly where, and we'll tell you how much. And there was another question that I want to miss it. Oh, yeah, I knew this one was going to come up. So this is a big question. Do we feel that we're at the peak with the market? And in a couple years, will the values of houses go down? I think I want to ask both of you, what do you think of that question, Brittany? I mean, I know that's the $10 billion question, but what are you thinking?
Well, so Diane is actually my client, so we've conversated about this before. Her and her sister Deb are looking at property in Corolla. So, a lot of what we do when we're looking at some of the rental projections, us in particular, this client, is we're looking at not only what the market is doing in 2020 and 2021, but we're also looking at what the market is doing on these homes as far as from a rental perspective back in 2019, 2018, because then we're able to justify, if we're not in a pandemic and pre-COVID, is this house cash flowing? Is how much is it going to cost us out of pocket? And so those are a realistic aspect of looking at how much this home is going to cost you, from what are their expenses back in 2019 to what are their expenses in 2020. Are we heating the pool this year than we weren't last year because people want a pool heated? So there's a couple different variables about that. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, can I absorb this house if the rental income were to decrease by 25%? So what the numbers are doing now, they're great and they're beautiful and they're making money. But if they were to decrease by 25%, what does that look like on your pocket? Are you still going to be able to afford this home? And that, I think, is the end all question. We can't predict when we're going to hit the peak, but we can tell you that from being good agents, we're going to be able to, we can't give you a date and say it's going to be December 1st, 2021. We'll be able to see before we actually hit that peak, because prices are just going to get outrageous and homes aren't going to appraise anymore. And there's going to be a lot of variables from like a saturation part of the market, if you will. And you're going to see that the homes that aren't appraising, what are the rental projections or what it's actually doing when it's supposed to be in its height right now. That's where we're going to start to reach our peak, and we're going to start to see that prices are where they're land before they're going to start to go down. Yeah. I'm sure, Becky, you probably have a little bit of insight that you can put on this too, but that's kind of what the way that I've been looking at it. I also like to look at the differences between location. Just because a Soundside home is doing great in 2020 and 2021 and it's cash flowing and it's paying for itself and it's beautiful. But what did it do in 2018 and 2019? You know, it only brought in 20,000 because it's just, we all know at the end of the day, you're going to the beach and you want to be close to the beach as possible. And you want the amenities in the home of having a private pool and a hot tub. So in 2020, it did great and it paid for itself and you made $5,000 at the end of the year. But next year, when the market goes down and your home has no amenities, there's still going to have people, there's still people out there that are going to have money and they're still going to come to the beach and they're going to rent homes. But what are the homes that they're going to rent? And that's what you have to ask yourself at the end of the day. They're going to want to be as close to the beach as possible. They're going to want as many amenities as possible. What can you give them? And that also goes into when you're talking about resale value as well. You buy a home from 1965 and you don't do anything to it, and the new home 2 blocks over is built in 2021 and they both go up for sale, who do you think is going to sell first? Because people are going to look at it and go, oh, well, that one comes with the extended builder's warranty and they've got great rentals and they're semi-ocean front. And so there's just a lot of different variables, I think, when you talk about the peak of our market.
I agree. Becky, what have you been seeing?
Well, I think I would say I don't think we're there yet, because we're still seeing the market climb. We're still seeing so many buyers going after each of these properties. And, as long as we're seeing multiple offers, we can just anticipate it still going up. So I don't think we could possibly be at the top yet. Also, this is how this happened, and going up is very different than what happened, a decade ago. I don't see the drop off, coming quite the same as that. That was kind of like a screeching halt for various different reasons. So this, when it does, we'll be on it. We'll see those things, like Brittany said, the signs coming before it actually happens.
Yeah, we normally can't tell you what happened yesterday. What I have found I can do, and the best I can offer, and the best we can offer, and we're in this every day. The best I can offer you guys is probably 10%. And that's just being perfectly honest. So Diane, I can tell you when I feel like the market has gone down 10%. And once I feel that, I normally start talking to my sellers and my owners, and we all start saying, okay, here's what's happening. We're seeing it move down because every real estate market is cyclical. We all know that. So don't be afraid of it. It's going to happen. You're going to be part of a cycle, and that's okay. So you're going to own it sometimes when it's worth more, and you're going to own this property sometimes when it's worth less, if you own it for a long period of time. My recommendation always is a hold period of 7 years, because I've found that 7 years tends to be an average that can straddle a good and a bad market, with some exceptions. But for the most part, I feel comfortable with a 7-year hold. If you make money before then, good for you. But I want you to be thinking about it in a 7-year projection. And what we mean when we say I can see it happening when it's 10% down, I can't call you and say the market's gone down 2%, we need to sell. I'm just not that good. I can normally tell you, and this team can normally tell you, because we're in it every day, you guys, we can say the market's gone down. And now that I'm looking at it, we've lost 10%. So you're not going to lose more than that as long as you trust us. But that's the key thing. If you trust us, if we, and this has happened to me in this very career that I'm in right now, I have called and said, the market's going down. And for whatever reason, this person said, a lot of people said, well, I'm going to hold. And I say, I don't recommend you do that. I feel like we're at 2:00 and we've got a ways to go. I really want you to sell before we get 6:00 on the face of the clock, on the face of the cycle. And they didn't believe me, and they lost a lot of money. So when we call and say, we see the 10% now, do you want to get out or do you want to wait for it to come back? That's when you need to believe us. Okay. So that'll be the next call and you hold through it or you don't. And that's entirely up to you. I've got clients that have succeeded holding, and I've got clients who have succeeded selling when I told them to. The only people who lose are the ones who don't believe us when we call. And sometimes then they get caught. So just when we talk about the market and the value there, the question necessarily isn't whether or not you should buy now. I think it's always a good time to buy. The question is, what is your risk? That's the question that we talk about. And that's a conversation for not just this hour, hopefully. That's a conversation with you on what you're willing to risk. Are you willing to risk 25% value going down? If you are, let's go, because we're probably never going to lose that without catching it first. We're always going to catch it before it gets to 25%. If you can only risk 10%, then we need to have a serious conversation first, because we probably as a team can't get any closer to 10% knowledge of the market. It's just not possible. It's just too hard to do. How many homes sell without ever getting listed? Ooh, what a good question. I love that question. Yeah, go. How many have we had that you would say that we've privately sold? There's some asterisks to this group, because we're not allowed to do coming soons here, and we're not supposed to do pocket listings here. So your question is a good one, but again, because of our area, we're really limited. So I don't know, one of you want to take that one?
I mean, I guess, there's been we do get insight, and between our team, we talk, hey, Sarah's like, hey, I just had a really great listing appointment. We're going to get this, she doesn't have the specifics, but I know that there's a semi-oceanfront coming, and it's in this section of Ocean Sands, and these are the amenities. Great. So I talk to my clients, and then I say, hey, I don't really have the details, but I could talk a little bit more, like 24, 48 hours out, and I'm going to tell you prior to it being listed, so you're ready to go. We have that virtual showing, and it goes live tomorrow at 9 a.m. and you're like, cool, let's get on a Zoom at noon. I've got all the rental numbers and we're ready to roll, and this is it. We do have a few of those. As far as like off market stuff, everything hits the market. It all goes to the market. So we do find out stuff ahead of time, but like Sarah said, they can't advertise it. It's a 24-hour out minimum. We do
have some office exclusive, Becky. I know you've talked to people at Keller Williams. So these ladies are always talking. We have an inner office app at Keller Williams. And so talk to them about that. Like when people are like, hey, I've got this coming.
Yeah. The same kind of thing though. They will mention it. So we do sometimes have a little bit of heads up that's something going on that we can let you know about. But again, it typically has to make it to the MLS before we are able to do anything.
So there's 86 agents at Keller Williams right now. So we're the largest firm by agent count right now. So that gives us a heads up for sure, and a leg up, because the chances of a house being listed by one of those 86 agents is pretty strong, and we're the first to know about it. So we're the first, but it still will hit the market. So you're going to get a little bit of a heads up, and that'll give you an edge for sure. Yeah.
I heard today while I was sitting in my office, another agent had talked to an agent from another office who she's friends with. And he was like, hey, I'm listing a 2.5. And he gave her all the deets. And he's like, I'm not listing it until, the weekend, because I want it to go crazy this weekend. But she knows it's coming, and she has told all of her clients already. And the fact that we were in the office today and I overheard it, I was like, tell me more. And so the fact that we have so many agents within our Keller Williams office kind of gives us an advantage and a leg up from that aspect, because all of the agents that we work with, majority of them have worked somewhere else prior to coming to our office, and they've developed great relationships. They've been in this business a while. And so we're finding out about stuff as well, not just within our office, but outside of our office too.
Yep. Agreed. All right, so let's do a wrap up, because I know we've been throwing a lot of information at you guys, and I also know we've been answering questions in between. So I think maybe just anybody who has another question, just throw it in the chat right now, and I'll get to it. In the meantime, Becky, do you want to just kind of go back over the top 5 things that you want all these people to do before they consider writing an offer with you?
Yeah. So just our recap is that getting that pre-approval, if you're going to be using a lender, not just the pre-qualification, but the pre-approval, where they have taken you all the way through underwriting and you are like approved for this loan pending the appraisal. That is huge. And we have our lenders. I had one this weekend contact the listing agent and say, hey, this is what we've been through. So, they've already worked through this so that the other side knows the full extent of that. Working on price, really thinking about what do you want? What can you walk away from? What would you be okay with? And what would just really break your heart if you missed out on it by, X amount of dollars? that due diligence, just know going in, yes, we need it. Yes, it's significant. And it's just kind of that price to pay the game right now. If you're talking in multiple offers, don't complicate, just keep things as simple as possible. Ask for what we, the basics of what we need. As far as appraisal and time to do our inspections, but none of those extras that maybe you've been able to ask for in previous markets. And just be prepared for the highest and best. Again, we highly recommend you just go for it from the beginning because it often works out. But be ready for that, for us to come back and say, hey, they called for this. Do you want to go any higher or any better? And then we just want you to know too that we're working hard behind the scenes for you, that we are watching the MLS like all day long to see what new is coming on. We have alerts set up that alert you, that alert us, so that we can get out there quickly and view the homes for you quickly, or have a showing assistant get out there. We are pre-scheduling those home inspections, and before we ever place the offer, getting those set up. And then, what Brittany mentioned towards the beginning, that what our team has set up with the Southern Trust, the VIP program, to kind of offer you some incentives to help you out through the process, because we know when you're having to offer up due diligence money and an inspection and kind of all these things up front, it gets pricey. So we're trying to come up with some things that make it a little bit easier on you. And I don't know if you want to finish talking about that, Sarah, the program with Southern Trust.
Yeah, I can go over it real fast. So yeah, the Spencer Team Southern Trust VIP program looks like this. And again, I mean, I'm going fast, so come at me later and ask questions. Well, more specifically, go to these ladies because they're going to know more about it. The priority approval is that pre-qualification process that we go through with Southern Trust. So we're going to need some details from you. We're going to tell you what they are, and then he's going to get you pre-approved, not pre-qualified, which that letter is just going to hold so much weight, you guys. And then the $500 lender credit that they're going to be giving you guys towards closing costs. You get $500 back from that lender. They're promising a $500 flat lender fee, which is huge. I've seen some of those numbers go up really, really high. So that's a great ceiling that they put down for you guys. Our team is going to be adding on top of that an extra $500 towards your due diligence, so that it can make your due diligence look that much stronger, because we did talk about how that really matters. So if it's an extra $500 that does it, we're happy to do it. So we're crediting that ourselves. And then the other thing our team is throwing in is the $500 towards the preferred inspector's best price. You guys, just because I'm not in buyer side as much as you are, what's the range on Ben's home inspections right now that you've seen? I know you guys do these like 100 times a day.
On the low end, it's about 425-ish. I haven't seen it go above 900, and that's just for the home. And then when we're adding on the pool, correct me if I'm wrong, Becky, but it's roughly about 100 or so.
Okay.
I think that's what it recently has been. So inspecting of the pool.
Yeah. So we're giving you $500 towards that preferred home inspector's best price. So that could possibly pay for the whole thing, or at least come really close. So that's the program. If you come in with us now and you get that pre-approval, then all those other goodies come along with it. And that's with a local guy who's been here forever. He's fantastic. Everyone who works with him loves him. I know there's a few people on that have used him in the past. He's just really great. He does a really good job. So so that's it. Is there any other closing things you want to add, Brittany, to round us out? And I'll double check and make sure there's no other questions. And then again, anybody who has questions, just holler in the chat at me.
I don't think so. I think we have everyone's email who joined, so I'd be happy to share the notes from tonight's meeting, just so that way if you guys have any questions and you wanted to double back, and you can of course reach out to any one of us, and we'll be happy to chat with you. But we really appreciate you all learning and understanding and listening to how our market's trending right now and what we're doing to win these multiple offer situations. Because, sometimes I think it was like one weekend in December, I won like 7 in 1 week. And Spencer's like, dude, you have to teach a class about this. Yeah. And I ended up teaching a class to the entire firm. So, these are the things that work, you guys. And we've discovered this firsthand, and we will continue to practice them and use them and make changes as necessary, but we strongly suggest that you stick to our formula.
Yep, it's working. It's working so far. So we look forward to hearing from anybody if you have any extra questions specific to the market. And I know a bunch of you are already considering writing offers because I recognize names as I see them on the screen. So good luck. We're doing everything we can to make sure yours is the winner, we promise. All right, so if nobody has any questions, I think I'm going to end it. And then we'll just see you guys at the
Thank
next
you.
class. Yeah. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. It's
Bye.
informative.
Oh, glad. I'm glad you liked it. Bye, John. A few questions that people put along with their when they signed up. So we have a few questions already, but if you have any, just pop it in the chat and then I'll read it out to the ladies as soon as we get started. So if you don't know who we are, I'm Sarah Spencer.